clever pun.
Hello, and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I am Dustin Jackson.
It's the end of the season, Dustin. It's the end of the year. Welcome to our annual New Year's Forecast episode of the Kongversation, where we look ahead to the year that lies before us as it pertains to the Donkey Kong universe. Very narrow parameter there, but it's all I'm really feeling for 2025. I'm not really looking forward to the year ahead, except where it pertains to my hobby and my interest, which is, of course, the DKU, because we actually have already a pretty stacked year ahead of us as far as what we know we're getting or what we are potentially getting. They haven't exactly announced the release dates for certain things, but we know it's going to be coming. So this will be a really easy New Year's forecast to do in comparison to some past years where we're just like, I don't know, maybe
we're not so in the dark this year.
Yeah, where, you know, some of these New Year's forecasts we were like, well, Banjo-Kazooie game, maybe? I don't know.
Can I make a prediction here, Hyle? One early prediction.
Sure, let's get it out of the way.
I think we're gonna get a Donkey Kong game in 2025.
You know what, Dustin? I'm gonna bet against that. Well, I'm gonna say that all of the trucks delivering Donkey Kong Country Returns HD will
fall into a ravine.
Yeah, huge ravine. Every single truck. If there is no ravine nearby, they will somehow develop underneath the trucks. I don't think this game will make it out on January 16th.
Ah, man, that's a bummer.
Yeah, I know, right? I was really looking forward to that.
Yeah, so DKU not off to a great start this year, I guess.
Yeah. So we are live streaming this episode on our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/DKVine. Hello to, my arch nemesis Freezer from the previous episode is there.
There she is.
Zipbinders, we have March Rose, Chris has joined us, Cameron has joined us, Porygon Q has joined us.
Wow,
welcome.
A night of 1,000 stars.
They're all here. It's like Smash Brothers. Of course,
Porygon Q's agent talked him into joining tonight.
Yeah. So, of course, we will be counting down to the new year as far as it pertains to the UK. Specifically, as I build this, Twycross, the ancestral home of the Donkey Kong universe, location of Rare Limited. So we will be celebrating when it hits midnight for the UK. That I'm not going to stay up for midnight my own time. I don't want to do that. I don't like New Year's, Dustin. It's all a bit pointless. It's all a bit nonsense to me. It's like, oh yeah, we have to get new calendars. Like I can understand what it represents to some people, right? Like, oh, you know, fresh start. But this is
right.
This is a fresh start I don't really want. I would be perfectly happy just ringing in the old, constantly ringing in that old.
We're doing 2024 again.
You know, let's just go back. Let's just go back to, I don't know, 2010. You know.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, we are getting back to 2010 because Donkey Kong Country Returns is coming back in just a couple of weeks.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, what a time to be alive. Almost like it was 14 years ago. No, we have a lot to look forward to as far as the DKU goes in 2025. And I feel like a lot of people will be retreating into their insular, narrow hobbies and interests and fantasy worlds to just kind of tune out what we can. And let's go down the list, Dustin, of what we know we're getting from certain studios, what we suspect we might be getting from certain studios, and maybe even what we hope we will see from certain studios. Although what we hope is basically a very, very long list, right? Like, oh, I hope we get grabbed by the Ghoulies 2. I hope we get Donkey Kong Racing, exactly as it was going to be on the GameCube. That would be a very long episode, and it wouldn't really be productive, because we would just be basically fantasizing, masturbating, if you will. And
right, Christmas is already passed. We're not here to sit on Santa's lap and tell him what we want.
No, he's gone for the year. He's sleeping. I imagine he sleeps for like 3 straight weeks after having to pull that. They say it's an all-nighter, but he has to go around the world. So he's working for 24 hours, and probably the prep time alone, he's probably up for an entire week. So
right.
Santa's not going to help us.
I wouldn't want to do it. You know those Christmas specials where they're like, "Oh, Christmas is ruined. Oh, but I can do Christmas for you, Santa." I wouldn't be able to do that.
No, I'd
go home.
It would be fun flying in a sled with the reindeer, but the problem is then you go wee, and then you stop at the next house, and you're like, I was having too much fun. But there's houses everywhere, so you wouldn't get any momentum going.
You'd be so stressed out.
Yeah. So let's start. Out of the 3 companies, because Nintendo is a studio, but Nintendo is really more than a studio, so we'll just call them companies. Out of the 3 that really fall under DK Vine's primary coverage criteria, let's start with 2025 for Playtonic.
I guess we could do that while we're here.
And we know Yooka-Replaylee. It was announced last June, Stinky Ape Summer. We are getting Yooka-Replaylee potentially this year. They're, of course, not really weighing on that when it's coming out, but I would say there's a pretty good chance we'll see it in 2025, all things considered. And, so far, I'm really liking what I see, all the little changes they made of it. We've seen quite a bit of Glitter Glaze Glacier in particular, where they, played it on YouTube and really showed off some of the new features, new environmental effects, and, I'm still wondering how much they can really fix for the original Yooka-Laylee,
right?
When the basic structure is still there. You can definitely make it a better game, but will it be enough to really make a difference for the people who didn't enjoy it the first go around?
Right. We saw the footage of Glitter Glaze Glacier, and it looks good, but it is mostly the same. And I'm really hoping that if they can't, totally redesign these worlds, maybe just all of the little things they fix will, add up. Maybe maybe the original Yooka-Laylee was more a death by 1,000 cuts, where there's just a lot of weird issues that build up, and maybe just fixing those will make I think about the bookmarks, how you can just fast travel to those bookmarks in the world. Maybe that'll be enough to make the size of the worlds not a issue.
Yeah, and I also think rethinking how they handle some of the collectibles, like Tribal Stack Tropics, that errant quill that was just hidden because I think Kev Bayless placed it, and he was just like, wouldn't this be funny to be just complete dicks?
Guess what? It wasn't very funny.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of inelegance baked into the original Yooka-Laylee. And for the record, I did enjoy the original Yooka-Laylee for what it is. I'm not saying I like it more than Banjo-Kazooie or Banjo-Tooie, but there's a lot to like there. And I've said, quite controversially, I think I like it more than Donkey Kong 64. I think it hangs together better than that game did. But a lot of those...
That's tough for me. I think I would need to play DK64 again, and I don't really want to do that.
Well, I think there's a lot of concessions that were made. 1, because of the Kickstarter, and 2, because of the time crunch to get it out. And they've definitely got a far more robust staff this time around. They have the benefit of hindsight, which is very important. And I think that they can definitely make it a better experience. My only concern with Yooka-Replaylee is that it will not be enough for some people, and Playtonic is betting quite a bit on this revamped Yooka-Laylee as kind of a reintroduction, a take two, if you will, for the characters, the cast, and the environment in which they inhabit. I think it's the greatest shame that Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair was as overlooked as it was, because that game deserved all of the recognition, all of the like lauding platitudes, all of the just glow and glamour that the original Yooka-Laylee got and then failed to actually garner once people started to play it. So to go back to that first game, I think it makes a lot of sense, but it's also incredibly risky. And like I said, I like what I've seen thus far. I think it looks really appealing. I'm on board with like all of the changes they're making, even things that I didn't think I would like completely redoing the dialogue boxes so they don't look like Banjo-Kazooie. They're instead like on this like pagey motif, and really rooting everything in the book notions, the grand tomes. You know, we already had pages and quills, but now we also have marks, which are the bookmark that you can find,
strengthening the vibe, the theme they're going with.
And I think that was one of Yuka-Laylee and Impossible Lair's greatest strengths, was getting it away from just being Banjo-Kazooie XPs. And obviously with that first game, you can't do that quite as much. But I think aesthetically, just getting away from Banjo-Kazooie, letting Yooka-Laylee be its own thing as much as it can be, considering the franchise is called Yuka-Laylee. I think that you do that, and that like immediate comparison won't be there, which will really let the game have its own identity and not just be this like make do that Banjo-Kazooie fans play, because Banjo-Kazooie doesn't have a new game and hasn't had a new game in a decade and a half. So
exactly.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, but I'm really, really looking forward to Yooka-Replaylee. It's great to have a Playtonic game in the conversation again, and the Kongversation again, where we can just like watch the development of it, get hyped for it. And I think they've been doing a really great job of doling out the information. It's been a steady drip. They have been really playing to that hype cycle, which I love. And it's been a lot of fun since June, since they announced it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else we get from them before the game is officially announced for a release date. But that's not all.
Yeah.
That's not all, Dustin. Because
what else is there?
Well, not necessarily from Playtonic themselves, although we know they're working on other games. I don't know if they're going to announce any of their other games this coming year, but from Playtonic Friends, we also have Dunk Dunk, which is the cartoony basketball arcadey game that will have Playtonic and Playtonic Friends characters in it. Yuka and Laylee were announced from the get-go. Then they announced what's her name, Elsie from that Elsie game. But then they also announced the Beebs from Demon Turf. And so this is shaping up to kind of be Playtonic iDarb. And I love iDarb. I love iDarb, Dustin. I talk about iDarb
I know. If there's
constantly.
one thing I know about you, Hyle, it's that you love iDarb.
It's because I have that big iDarb forehead tattoo, and you always see it whenever you talk to me.
It says, ask me about iDarb.
Yeah, the problem is I constantly bring up iDarb here on DK Vine, to the detriment of everyone else's attention span, because outside of like me and Jeff, maybe, I don't think anybody cares about iDarb. And I'm like, it has Banjo in it. It has Kazooie in it. It has Conker in it. Saberman, Cameo, a Fudgehog. And people are just like, yeah, I don't care.
Get that shit out of here.
And I'm just like, I thought you liked Banjo. I thought you liked Kazooie. It's like, no, I like 1.5 Banjo-Kazooie games, and everything else can go rot.
Get it out of my sight.
So I know the interest isn't there for Dunk Dunk. I'm going to be talking about Dunk Dunk. Ooh, Dunk Dunk is coming out.
What a fun game. What a fun name.
I know. It's just fun to say, just like iDarb. It's just a fun game to say aloud. But I understand this is going to be much more of a sleeper kind of thing, and it's just going to be like, I don't care that Yuka and Laylee are in it, because it's not really Yuka and Laylee. It's just, an endless number of skins over these basketball players. It doesn't really engage me, the enlightened connoisseur of electronic entertainment. And to that I say, whatever, that's fine. I'm still going to be talking about Dunk Dunk. Looking forward to it. It's nice. It's nice to have a Playtonic Friends game that plays with the idea of like bringing in other characters again, because outside of the original Demon Turf, you haven't really seen that from Playtonic Friends. And I'm not saying like every Playtonic Friends game needs to shoehorn in Yuka and Laylee or another Playtonic character. I just thought we would have seen more of it. And
right. It's something that's allowed to be a little more self-referential. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to Dunk Dunk. But speaking of Playtonic Friends, Beebs, and Demon Turf, this isn't a Playtonic Friends release, but we did just the other week see the announcement for Demon Tides, which is the full-fledged sequel to Demon Turf by Febreze, and I think this looks great. I know, like, Demon Turf definitely found its audience, and, found its audience on DK Vine at that, but it's still, I understand the further away you get from the core conceits and concepts of like Donkey Kong and Rare, like the Diddy Kong Racing network of characters. Not everyone's going to be on board with all of these, not even a spin-off game, just a game that has very little to do with it.
Yeah.
But it's still part of the family, in a way.
It is, yeah. I did really enjoy Demon Turf. It was unique.
I need to play it. I'm going to try to play through it this next coming year. I liked what I played. I think I just got distracted by something else.
It's easy to do, yeah. I really liked the original Demon Turf. It was unique. It was fresh. It was original. It had a lot of that world building that I love. And I think Demon Tides looks great. It's not so oppressively purple and red. And, Demon Turf took place in hell. So it was kind of...
right, which makes sense.
Yeah, it was kind of... had a very unique color palette that could get overwhelming at times. This one takes place in an adjacent otherworldly afterlife realm where it's an open sea. I think Ragnar Rock is what it's called, which is, very clever. But it's very sunny. It has kind of Mario Sunshine vibes, but maybe a little bit of Wind Waker. If you squint, I'll even allow Sea of Thieves in there. It's... sailing around to all these different islands, and it looks really good, and I'm really impressed by what I see. Just like the visual jump from the original Demon Turf to this looks spectacular. And, I'm always going to be excited for a new 3D platformer coming along that will fall under DK Vine's purview. So, yeah, definitely be keeping an eye on that. Have no idea if it'll be ready to go in 2025. The team behind these games, they're workhorses. They did the original Demon Turf, and then they did the Neon Splash sub sequel, and then they did the Tower DLC for it. And I mean, just very prolific for this small indie team. And here we are, the full-fledged sequel. I mean, they're just, I don't know how they do it, but it's very impressive. I don't look for this game to be coming out relatively soon, but it would not surprise me if it got a 2025 release when all is said and done.
For sure. I'm really looking forward to this. I thought it looked very cool, even though I feel like I kind of prefer the unique art style of the first game a little bit. You know how they had the 2D drawings of the characters on a 3D world? I thought that was a very cool look. And this moves away from it, but it still looks very nice. And I think everything else about it is maybe a little more a little closer to my taste than the first one is.
Sure.
Not that the first one wasn't my taste, but this one just seems like even more so.
Sure. Yeah. I think that the only thing that really held me back with the original Demon Turf was the color palette. As much as I love the Virtual Boy, it did tend to create a little bit of the eye strain in me that people always complained about with the Virtual Boy. And so just to open it up and have a more colorful palette and a just brighter world. And it's not all tropical like we've seen other environments in there. So I think that this will be definitely one to watch in the months ahead.
For sure. I'm really looking forward to it. I think this is a big reason why I'd like to finally go through and finish that first game.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Rare. Rare in 2025. And I think Rare in 2025, talking about Rare these past several years, it's always kind of been this similar kind of discussion. Well, they're going to be working on Sea of Thieves. And that's that. Maybe we'll hear something about Everwild this year. And it's just been that on repeat for the last several years. I think 2025 will be the most interesting year in watching what Rare does, what they say, what they potentially announce since maybe 2015 and 2016. Why? Why am I suddenly saying, yeah, we might be seeing a bit of a shakeup at Rare? Well, it's because there's been a shakeup at Rare. Craig Duncan.
I guess that would make sense.
Yeah, I'm just doing the math here, Dustin, and the equations don't lie.
Man, I'm glad we were able to come together on this conclusion. I think things are going to be a little different.
I think they're going to be a little bit different at Rare, considering that they're a little bit different at Rare. I just think it makes sense.
I don't know if that's a hot take. I know there's some people who are going to disagree with me.
Look, I'm a straight shooter. I just says them as I sees them. And what I'm seeing is that Craig Duncan was promoted to head of Xbox Game Studios, whilst Joe Neate and Jim Horth have taken over the day-to-day at Rare. Now, fundamentally, it's still the same studio. It's still a very important arm of Xbox Game Studios. Craig Duncan is still overseeing it on a broader level. But if it's not a completely new era at Rare, then this is still a pretty big evolution from the previous one. And I'm not saying this to create this sense of false hope or just blindly champion the studio that I've spent the vast majority of my life now a fan. Like 3/4 of my life, I have been just all about Rare. I'm not doing that because of that. I just think that we honestly have better odds now of seeing some change from the last 8 years or so at Rare. And I say that as somebody who's more or less really enjoyed what Rare has done over the last 8 years. I mean, how much I love Sea of Thieves, and I've loved Sea of Thieves. I think Sea of Thieves was exactly what Rare needed, and it had needed for quite some time. It was the right game to really bring them forward into a more modern discussion, a modern context. And I think Craig Duncan in particular definitely had those valid reasons for wanting to maybe distance the studio a little bit from just being mired in the legacy of their N64 era. They could not shake that for the life of them. And trying to replicate that on the Xbox platform it just failed to catch fire, right? Like all of these properties, they just couldn't get them going for numerous reasons. Some, just the hand they had been dealt, others just what was happening at Rare itself. But I think a lot of those reasons that was they were keeping Rare from using those things, using those IPs. They're now not. If they're still valid a little bit, they're not as valid as they were, because I feel like Rare has successfully turned the page at long last. They have shown that they can make a modern game that's wildly successful and not be stuck in these permutations of trying to make the same sequel to a Nintendo game from the late 90s, you know?
Right.
They've shaken the stigma of what they were, and now people are fans of what they are today. Now, I don't know if this will necessarily mean anything right out of the gate. Like, it's still early days, and I don't think, like, this June we're going to be seeing any grand announcement of or anything. But
it's going to take some time.
It's going to take some time. We're not going to see a game launched or announced in June for this November called actually Banjo-Tooie, parentheses Banjo 3. We're not going to see that. It's not going to happen for some time, but I think the possibilities are opened up in a way that they've only ever been allowed to be opened up very, very narrowly during the last 8 years. Like limited Sea of Thieves references, or, you know, the big one was making a deal with Nintendo to get Banjo and Kazooie in Smash. And then
which was good. That is a big, cool deal.
That was a big one. And then getting all the legacy rare titles on NSO that haven't been available on Nintendo platforms for years. Like, that stuff was great. And still is great. It's still paying off today. But I do think now we can maybe hope, if you are an older Rare fan, you can maybe hope for more of a blending between the old and the new. And
I mean, I think that's the best way to do it. Walk the line between them while, you know, having new stuff, but being able to not completely close yourself off to the old as well.
Yeah. Like, I don't know Joe Neat's operating philosophy here. You know, I've met him, but I've never really psychoanalyzed him. I've never, like, gotten him on the couch and said, tell me about your childhood. So I can't really tell you what he or Jim Horth are thinking, but I do hope that they understand the wealth of legacy at Rare and how it's just been painfully underutilized for so long now.
Right. I think we're going to find out. We're going to be seeing a lot less Mr. Pants and a lot more Snake Rattle and Roll. That's my prediction.
Oh, that's a monkey paw situation for me. I'm like, finally, we're getting these legacy Rare sequels, and it's Digger T Rock, and
it's only the ones you don't care about, have no ties to the DKU.
Slalom and
RC Pro-Am, baby.
WrestleMania.
Attic Attack. Yeah, WrestleMania.
Yeah, Beetlejuice.
Hey, you know what? I was about to say, there's that new Beetlejuice. I think we need a new tie-in game.
So let's talk about the Rare properties that are on the table. And I'm going to start with one that typically makes everyone roll their eyes. We're talking Everwild. Yeah.
Now, Hyle, I don't know if you'll remember or not, but Mitchell and I decided to become Everwild's biggest fans, and that hasn't really paid off yet.
Yeah, I mean, I admire the dedication to a ludicrous cause. I do.
Yeah, the problem is we don't have anything to show for it. We made this declaration, and here we are with no Everwild yet.
It's been 5 years. It's been 5 years since Everwild was announced. We've gotten 2 trailers, and that's it. And that's it.
Yeah.
Actually, it was it until just last week, because we have gotten the first reference to Everwild in years via Rare's 2024 holiday card. They shared this on social media just before the Christmas holiday, and it has a picture of it looks like the Avatar tree from off of Avatar, the James Cameron Avatar. They have one of those like bloom deer or whatever they're called, some other critter, and then one of the human characters in their weird cloaks looking at it, and it's a beautiful image.
The classic weird cloak.
Yeah. you know, I don't have much to say about this because I still don't know what Everwild is.
Yeah, I really have nothing to sink my teeth into. I hope it is a game I enjoy.
Which is bold language coming from one of two Everwild's biggest fans.
Yeah, you know, I hope I don't regret it. It would suck to have this game come out and have it be bad, and then I just can't back down from being its biggest fan.
I thought you were going to say it would really suck if Everwild started making problematic social media posts, like retweeting Andrew Tate or something. Like, oh,
that would suck very badly for Mitchell and I.
Everwild, I believed in you, and you turned out to just be part of the manosphere. Oh no!
But we're too proud and too stubborn to back down, so we just have to be like, that was retweeted out of context, probably.
Their finger slipped. Everwild's finger slipped.
Yeah, it happens to everyone.
They didn't mean to retweet it. You know, it's really hard. It's really hard because Everwild was announced in late 2019, and then it very quickly, very rapidly seemed to enter this constant churn of development hell behind the scenes. And we don't really have the full story of that, of course. We only have industry scuttlebutt from the likes of Andy Robinson and what have you. But nobody really knows what this game is after half a decade. And it had some very nice visuals. It seemed to have this like environmental, like harmony with nature message that I really dig. And I feel like it definitely seemed to be like, just like Sea of Thieves was really channeling into some classic Rare ethos. It felt like Everwild was doing that as well. The difference is, though, with that first Sea of Thieves trailer, so much of what the game was communicated right from the start. Like, you knew what Sea of Thieves was going to be about. And maybe that's just because multiplayer pirate game is much more easier to communicate than whatever Everwild has going on. But
right, you get it.
I say this as one of the biggest Rare fans on the planet. I mean, this is the end of the 12th season of the Kongversation podcast. So I hope that my credentials don't need to be justified or validated, but I feel nothing for Everwild right now. I'm wanting to know more about it, but after half a decade and just 2 trailers to go off of, and having no idea what the gameplay consists of, having no idea the structure of the game or what to look forward to, it's just kind of there. It's just kind of there for me. And all I hope for in 2025, and I think this holiday card at the very least suggests that we will be hearing some info about Everwild this year at long last, but all I hope for is to maybe see some gameplay footage.
Yeah, give me something that I can watch and say, okay, I get what this is now.
Yeah, I don't have anything to go off of. And granted, I've been perpetually hyped for games that have had nothing but pretty trailers in the past. But again, Donkey Kong Racing, everything you needed to really know about the game to get you hyped was communicated from that trailer. So,
right.
And yes, that's an established IP. It's kind of a sequel to a beloved game already. So that's different than Everwild. But that's all the more reason why Everwild just kind of feels vacant to me right now, because it's a new IP. It's a complete mystery, and all it really has...
Could be anything at this point.
Could be anything at this point. All it really has going for it is the pedigree of being from Rare, a studio I have passionately followed for 30 years now. So...
Right, and that's not nothing, but it's not a whole lot.
I mean, the only reason we're talking about Everwild is because it's a Rare game. So...
Right.
It's not nothing, but at the same time, when I look at the list of games I'm looking forward to that have been officially announced, Dunk Dunk is before Everwild. I'm sorry, but I know what Dunk Dunk is. I can predict the fun I will have with Dunk Dunk. Everwild, it's vague. And the fact that it's been in development hell for so long really just... I don't know. It just feels...
Does it get all stuck in your craw, Hyle?
it doesn't get stuck in my craw. I'm not upset about Everwild. I'm not agitated about Everwild. I'm not going to sit here and be like,
you would need to have some idea what it is to feel angry.
And also, look, I get it. Game development, big budget game development, it's a tough business. And I can understand having a vision for a game and it not really working out, having to retool it. You feel the flop sweat because, oh no, you already announced this. Maybe you were hoping that, luck would break your way. Like, you would just roll the dice and it would all come up your way, and it doesn't. And then what do? I get it. And this is no shade meant towards anybody working hard on Everwild for the last plus 5 years. Like, I have no qualms about it, but it is just kind of hard to care. And it's hard to feel anything right now. And maybe if it had been, just 3 years of kind of silence and then we get like a gameplay trailer, that'd be different. But half a decade is a long time. That's like almost half the amount of time it's been since a new standalone Donkey Kong game. It's a long time.
That sucks.
Everything sucks, Dustin.
That's over half Jeff's age.
Yeah, I know. Jeff has never been alive when a new Donkey Kong game has been out.
That's true. That poor guy. Cotbox in the chat says it's probably a Balatro clone. That's probably right.
I don't know what that is.
Well, it's kind of like Everwild.
Oh! Yeah, I know that game.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Anyway, it was really cool seeing this holiday card from Rare because I was like, oh, maybe we will get some Everwild news. I mean, they wouldn't do this, right? At this point, if Everwild was just a complete sinkhole, they would probably...
They wouldn't put out a card for it.
No, they would be distancing themselves from it. If they couldn't get it to work, they would be like, let's just forget we ever announced that.
Right. Just don't remind anybody. Just move on.
I do worry about sunk cost fallacy. They've spent so many years working on this game. I mean, I'm pretty sure this was a game they had in the works when I visited Rare in 2016 and they wouldn't let us go into the one barn. Pretty sure that was the Everwild barn. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll see some gameplay in 2025 and hopefully it will be enticing. But let's talk then very quickly about Sea of Thieves. Oh my God, Sea of Thieves.
Okay.
So if I'm honest, Dustin, 2024 hasn't been the game's most stellar year. It's kind of run into some difficulties. It's kind of run into some snags. You might say the ship has hit some rocks and is starting to run aground a little bit. Now, not to the point...
I get that reference, Hyle. That's like in Sea of Thieves.
It's like in Sea of Thieves, which is a reference to sailing wooden ships.
It's a reference to real life doing an activity.
Yeah, it turns out there were people on these wooden floaty things back in the day, and they would sail around, and some of them would be ne'er-do-wells, and they would very, very cheekily steal things. And it turns out this game is a reference to that.
Huh.
Yeah.
You know what? I guess that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
I hope they paid them.
I hope they paid the thousands of historians they hired to really get the details right. No, I've still really enjoyed Sea of Thieves, even despite all of the problems. The fundamentals of the game, the very foundation of it, is still spectacular. But this has been the roughest year since the game launched, and everybody was like, well, where's the content? There's definitely content in the game now, but the problem is it's starting to run into bugs galore. And I don't mean like little in-game bugs like click-clacks or whatever.
I don't mean little cockroaches.
I don't mean the little cockroaches, the little wiggly millipedes squirming out.
Are there any cockroaches in the DKU?
I don't think so. There are dung beetles. I think that's as close as we get. Yeah.
I like those guys.
yeah, there is a Beatles reference, so I like it. But Because the Beatles famously like to eat each other's poo. They would sit around in a big circle.
That was in that Disney Plus documentary.
Yeah, why was it 9 hours? Because 2 of it was just poo eating.
Worth it.
So the bugs have been really frustrating. And I mean, like, there's just been so many, like, little things where you load up the game and something will be going wrong. Like, you try to buy resource crates and you can't collect your crates. That's been the most common one that we've run into on stream. But then things like pop-ups not working. So you don't get your in-game pop-ups to know what you're doing or what you've done or what your crew member has dug up. Things like the other week on stream, I fell through the Athena hideout. I just fell right through the environment. And I was just stuck in this void. And it was terrifying because my biggest...
That's your biggest nightmare.
My biggest nightmare playing games is getting out of bounds, like boundary breaking. And I did that by complete accident. I wasn't trying to break the game. I was just mucking about in the Athena Tavern, the Pirate Legend hideout, and I fell through the environment and it respawned me out of the game world. And
hey, sometimes reality doesn't work.
Sometimes reality doesn't work. It's called the Mandela effect. Look it up. Fruit of the Loom had a cornucopia in its logo. I remember it.
I remember it too. That one I do remember.
That one freaks me the fuck out, Dustin. And I've said this before on the conversation, but that's how I learned what a cornucopia was. The Fruit of the Loom logo. And now it doesn't exist.
If it wasn't there, how the hell did I learn about it?
How do I know what a cornucopia is? Every Thanksgiving, I just break out in the sweats now.
Man, that would be even scary if it turned out cornucopias just didn't exist at all.
I remember this horn that was overflowing with fruit and other food stuff.
There's no way I could ever make that up on my own.
I'm not that creative. I host the Kongversation.
But yeah, Sea of Thieves, I've said it before. I still enjoy Sea of Thieves. I love playing it with people, but I do feel like I'm kind of, I don't want to say reaching my limit because I'm still going to keep playing it, but I am kind of hitting that point where I'm like, well, I'm kind of not as thrilled to play it all the time as I used to be. I think I'm kind of a little over it at this point.
You're so over it. You're like, Sea of Thieves, that's so 2019.
I'm so over that. Like, whatever. Get real, Hyle. You know what? Fuck you.
Wow. I like Valley Girl Dustin. This is an awesome, like, alternate you, like, coming through the multiverse here.
This is me just one universe over.
Into the Dustin-verse. The universe that actually does have the cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom logo.
Oh, a better world. I got stuck in this one.
So, beyond the bugs, yeah, I'm also feeling the burnout with Sea of Thieves, and I still have quite a bit of fun if, like, we got a full crew going, and we get into hijinks and shenanigans, and we, like, successfully evade a crew that's trying to come after us. Like that, like I said, the fundamentals are still there. That great Greg Malesian philosophy, when it harkens back to it, Sea of Thieves still sings, baby. But
right, like, I still have a good time when we do play it, but, do you remember that Simpsons episode with Poochie the Rockin' Dog?
Yes, Dustin.
How at the beginning...
I remember Poochie the Rocking Dog, one of the most iconic Simpsons episodes that's still referenced very much all over the internets. I remember.
Right, so you get it. But at the beginning of that episode, Lisa and Bart are they're just a little sick of Itchy and Scratchy. That's where I'm at with Sea of Thieves. I still have a good enough time with it, but I'm not champing at the bit to get on those seas anymore.
Yeah, and I think that there's been two problems, and this is beyond just the jankiness of the game. Problem the one is that the season update formula has done a lot, or did a lot, to, like, revitalize it and really make playing the game even in the most like minute ways, feel rewarding at first. But now it's almost holding the game back because we had season launches where they're very much geared towards one thing. Like, ooh, this is the season. The burning blade is on the seas. And then this most recent season, season 14, which we have not discussed yet on the Kongversation, it's season 14, making mischief. And it's just
mischief.
It's all about like sneaking around and messing with other crews. And that's not really where my head's at with the game.
And Hyle, you know how much I love making mischief. I'm a real mischief maker.
You are.
But if I jump into Sea of Thieves and the big new exciting thing is I can crouch now, I think not my favorite season.
Well, and that's also been...
That's selling it short, I know. That's hyperbole, but...
That's also been
still
the biggest hindrance the game has run into, I feel like. Since the season structure started, but really a little bit after that, it's when Adventures ended. The game has completely abandoned storytelling in the sense that the game is a living, breathing world. And I'm sure I will have much more to discuss about this when we do the season 14 episode in season 13 of the Kongversation. It's getting very confusing now, but I just feel like things are just happening to service the gameplay. And I also feel like the game is or has been geared towards the type of Sea of Thieves player that is also a Sea of Thieves partner, the type that just stream it like 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they just focus on combat, PvP, and that wonderful eclectic mix of things, including the game being living, breathing, full of storytelling, and also it didn't cater itself to one specific type of player. Like when the game launched, it was, you could be the pirate you wanted to be, and there would be something for you in there. And as of late, it just really feels like the team behind Sea of Thieves, they're just gearing it towards the perpetually in-deep Sea of Thieves player, which focuses on PvP and antagonizing others. And at the absence of like furthering the narrative, which I really liked, which I was really invested in. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that the shifts at Rare will also help signal a shift for Sea of Thieves and where it's kind of gone astray. Mm-hmm. I hope, but I don't know. Maybe with the regime change, we will also finally be able to convince someone at Rare to make Captain Blackeye a full-throated NPC in the game at long last. That would be great.
That would be great. I'm glad he will have a full throat.
Yeah,
he only had a quarter of a throat before.
He is in there, but it's only some like shaven neck hairs. So you've got like references to Captain Blackeye. You have the notion that Greg Mayles was sailing as Captain Blackeye. But let's be honest, that's all just a bit of a faff, isn't it? That's all just a bit of a, well, that's not really that good. We kind of want the good version of that, which is to have Captain Blackeye.
It feels like you're kind of clinging to scraps.
Yeah,
it's like, good, okay, I'll eat up these little crumbs.
We're eating up the little shaven neck hairs on the barber floor.
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, I would gladly slurp up Captain Blackeye's thick, bulbous neck hairs. But I want a little more.
That should be what the tall tale's called. Slurp up Captain Blackeye's thick, bulbous neck hairs.
I wonder what this one's going to be about.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get some more rare cosmetics along the way. Like, we still need to get like Banjo-Kazooie style weapons, Leaky the Bucket as a little like
as a bucket.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I was like, oh, what's the term for that? You scoop up the water, you catch your vomit in it. It's a bucket.
Oh man, yeah, Leaky the Bucket could be one of those things. If only I could remember.
Of course, I can go on and on about TT as a ship trinket, but I'm hoping that like Sea of Thieves will just get a refresh, a rethink, and it'll get sort of back to its roots a little bit more. And maybe, when you buy a bait crate, you can actually collect the bait crate. That'd be great.
Honestly, if they could get that one part working, they'd already be in a much better spot.
I just want my crate of worms, Dustin. I just want to know
for these worms.
When I get a crate of worms, I just want to know I will then have that crate of worms.
Yeah, imagine if you went to Amazon and ordered your crate of worms and just never got it. You'd be a little upset.
Little peeved, a little bit irritated at Jeff Bezos.
Just a little.
I mean, I'm irritated at Jeff Bezos constantly anyway, but the man always delivers my worms on time.
That is his one quality. I've never had a worm shortage under him.
Yeah, like I hate him. I think billionaires are out of control. We need to really, I don't know, police billionaires better. But, at the end of the day, the man gets me my worms.
He knows his worms. He knows his worms.
So something else we could potentially be looking forward to from Rare. And I very much doubt, again, it's early days in the Neat Horth empire at Rare. So these things take time, especially in the modern day. And I think Everwild is, of course, going to have to be the studio's focus, given that it's kind of been embarrassing to have this be in perpetual limbo for half a decade. But I think the possibility is there now, and wasn't necessarily there before, that a smaller project, or even something a la Battletoads 2020, where maybe the bulk of the work is done by an outside studio with Rare kind of supervising and having oversight and input, I think something like that is now back on the table again. And that's exciting to me as a Rare fan, because again, Sea of Thieves has carried my thirst, my never quenched desire to chug a Rare game. It's carried that for the better part of a decade. And for many years now, I've said, I don't really need a new game from Rare because I'm enjoying Sea of Thieves so much. But maybe because the lack of any narrative momentum, maybe because, I haven't played it almost on a weekly basis since 2018. Maybe I'm just ready to get excited about something else from Rare again.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
You know what? As much as I'm sure I will look forward to Everwild when we know more about Everwild, it would be nice as a Rare fan to have my Rare fandom paid off a little bit by having it be an IP that hasn't gotten any love for a long time. And
right. And I don't want to be one of those guys. I don't want to be one of the loud, angry people who really want that new Banjo game. Believe me, I want it more than anything.
Same.
But, it is a little, I don't want to say upsetting, that's dramatic, but when you see stuff like Croc is getting a remaster, that's cool. That Croc is being put back in the spotlight a little bit. I wish Banjo or another Rare property got to do the same.
Same. We've talked about it before here on the Kongversation, Dustin. We did that episode right after the Monkey Island reveal where I kind of lamented, and it was odd because, you're a huge Monkey Island fan, so you were kind of in a weird spot for my moaning then. And I ended up just adoring the Monkey Island Tall Tales. I thought that was maybe the finest thing Sea of Thieves has ever done. But
same.
I saw the Monkey Island thing, and I'm just like, how is it that all of these franchises, all of these IPs, all of these series are being revived and given loving tributes? And as a Rare fan, I feel like we just don't get it. And it's not like there isn't a fandom. It's not like there isn't this built-in market knowledge for these things. And it just feels like we have been sent to the timeout corner perpetually. Well, things like Croc, come back, Gex, they get these tributes within Rare itself, like Monkey Island, and it's just like, what about us? When can we get something like that for us.
Yeah, and like, I don't want to sound like, oh, Croc doesn't deserve it, Gex doesn't deserve it. No, it's awesome that these things get to be given the time of day again. I just wish that, Banjo might be able to get a little something, or Conker might get to see the light of day again.
Yeah. And again, I say this as somebody who adores Sea of Thieves. I think I've proven my bona fides there, how much I adore Sea of Thieves. So this isn't like, I want Rare to make real Rare games again.
Yeah, I'm not closed off to the new stuff either. I do want to see Everwild take shape into something. I do enjoy Sea of Thieves. But it's like I said before, I feel like there's kind of a line you walk where you can do new stuff, but also show love for your old stuff. And they were for a little bit. It was nice to see Rare Replay, but then it's just really nothing. It's really significant.
Yeah, and I think that's just my biggest hope for the new era of Rare. It's a greater balance between the old and the new, but it's also just like really being able to celebrate Rare and everything that entails. And honestly, now is the time to do it, even more so than a couple years ago. I know everybody's thinking like, oh, they missed that window to really bring Banjo-Kazooie back. They missed the best time to do it when 90s nostalgia was at its height and you're coming off of Banjo and Kazooie and Smash. And to some extent, I understand that. But now that the shift at Xbox has happened and something like a Banjo or a Conker or some Rare heritage mashup or something could appear on Nintendo, it would have an audience that might be more limited for Xbox. So the time to really tap back into that might be now. It might be the best time to do that. So
a time when Xbox games are appearing on not just Nintendo systems, but PlayStation too. You could get a new Banjo or something out and have it reach a much wider audience. And that's great.
So that's my biggest hope for Rare in 2025 is everything.
Yeah, just give me all of it, please.
Just all the potential, all the possibilities, fixing Sea of Thieves, getting Everwild in a state where we understand what the hell it is. And
right.
I'm not being picky. I'm not being like selfish here. I'm not being overly demanding. I just want Banjo-Kazooie, Conker, Viva Pinata, Grab by the Ghoulies, It's Mr. Pants, Cameo.
Whole list folds out in a cartoony fashion.
Yeah. Just the big like list that keeps unsprawling down the horizon.
Yeah, like, I like Craig Duncan. I liked what we got from Rare during his time, but I am a little excited for a shakeup. I feel like it's been, I don't want to say they've been stagnant, but, well, maybe I am. I feel like I just need some new stuff.
Yeah, exactly. They did the job they sought out to do, which was reinvent Rare for the modern era, shake off their failures on the Xbox platform. Commercial failures, not like failures from a game perspective. They made so many great games, but
yeah,
they did that. Now it's time to kind of harmonize a little bit better and have something for every Rare fan under the sun. But we're going to move on to Nintendo now, Dustin. We have about 30 minutes until the new year in Twycross. I have set my watch, and when I say watch, I of course mean my phone. I have set my phone to be timed with my alarm going off right at midnight. So we have 30 minutes, 25 seconds to go until the new year.
I'm looking forward to it, Hyle. I'm ready to ring in this new year in the UK.
In the UK, at Rare and Playtonic. But Pantsland will be New Year in Pantsland. Ghoulhaven Hall. Yeah. So we're going to move on to Nintendo, but I think a nice way to kind of thread the needle between Rare and Nintendo is to talk about our NSO predictions. What will we see on Nintendo Switch Online in 2025? We're obviously feeling a big boost. We're feeling buoyed because Banjo-Tooie got on NSO towards the end of the year, and then we got the Donkey Kong Land trilogy, which was pretty cool. What do you think we could potentially see in 2025?
Well, I mean, I was surprised to see Banjo-Tooie so soon. I mean, maybe so soon is a weird thing to say when it was
weird.
Years between Kazooie and Tooie. But I don't know, I just wasn't expecting it to drop. And it did. So, I'm hoping Diddy Kong Racing is the big one. I'm hoping we see that.
It's pretty not that surprising, is it, that we would be in agreement there, and that would be just DK Vine's stock answer. Diddy Kong Racing, but it's Diddy Kong Racing.
That's the big one.
It's the big one. It's the one that
it's like the one time it's ever had that opportunity to be re-released like this.
It's the game that forms really the beating heart of our website and our fandom, and all of these tangled webs. You know, we wouldn't be talking about Demon Tides if it didn't relate back to Yooka-Laylee, and we wouldn't be talking about Yooka-Laylee if it didn't relate back to Banjo-Kazooie and Royston, and we wouldn't be talking about that if it wasn't for Diddy Kong Racing. So
exactly, it's a big deal. It's kind of a big deal.
Huge deal. It's time it took its spot back in the pantheon of both Nintendo and Rare, and NSO is the way to do it. And so I know so many people who listen to this podcast are also hoping for Donkey Kong 64. Some of you might be saying, even more than Diddy Kong Racing, I'd love to see Conker's Bad Fur Day on NSO. There's some of you who are like, no, I want to see the Donkey Kong Country remakes on NSO. I want to experience that beautiful ending for Donkey Kong Country 2 GBA. Once again, the best ending in the entire DKU. And I want to see all those too. I do. I just want to see Diddy Kong Racing the most. And I do think it's so likely. I can taste it. I think it's going to happen. But again, we don't know if it's going to be this year. The way NSO just kind of staggers out releases, who knows? At the very least, we know NSO is sticking around. And so
I was about to say, we know it's going to be carrying over to the Switch too. That's already a load off. We don't need to worry about being like, get ready, we're releasing Super Mario 64 again.
We're releasing Super Mario Brothers. Can you believe it?
Wow. It's almost like I haven't been able to play it for the last 1,000 years.
Yeah, I think Switch 2 might open up the possibility to get like GameCube games, maybe, you know? So then we could start talking about Star Fox Adventures on NSO.
Yeah, right? That'd be good.
Yeah. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to say Diddy Kong Racing, it's my guiding light. It's my North Star. I'm just going to follow that in all of my NSO predictions until we arrive. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll say it. I mean, I think I've said it before. We've talked about it before. I don't think it's impossible that Conker could hit that M-rated N64 app. Just because I would argue, and maybe it's just because I'm not like the most knowledgeable gamer on the planet, but if you asked me, I would say Conker is the most infamous of the M-rated N64 titles. That would be a big one to get on there. And I don't want to say I think it's for sure coming, like, it's totally would make sense that they wouldn't put it on there, but I think it's got a somewhat good enough chance.
I agree. And it's weird to say that. It's weird.
Yeah, I would never have said that. Like, even a year ago, I wouldn't have been saying this.
You know, we talk about Conker. Freezer in the chat is saying Saberwolf GBA, it's Mr. Pants, Grunny's Revenge.
That'd be good.
Banjo Pilot even. Andre is raising issues with us saying that Diddy Kong Racing has never been re-released. Diddy Kong Racing DS only sort of counts, let's be honest.
Right, I mean re-releasing the original. Like, it's never been on, like, Virtual Console or anything like that.
Malik has joined us in the live stream. Cordykins, hello everyone. Hello. Happy almost New Year. No Song for Spiders, Me Muppet, Luffy Dawn.
Doing the pants dance.
Gotta love the pants dance. But I think so much is on the table now, and the fact that NSO is going to be sticking around, it really does just keep things in discussion. We've never had this before with a Nintendo platform where the infrastructure is carrying over, and so we could start potentially talking about, Grab by the Ghoulies. Grab by the Ghoulies on a Nintendo platform. Could you imagine Grab by the Ghoulies on Switch 2?
I don't see it happening, but it would be great. I would love to play Grab by the Ghoulies portably.
You know, just bring Grab by the Ghoulies full circle. It was originally going to be a GameCube game, it was an Xbox game, now it could be a Switch 2 game.
I guess, well, I was going to say, I guess weirder things have happened, but I think Grab by the Ghoulies being ported to the Switch would be pretty weird.
Well, I'm just saying, if there's any way, if we could get GameCube games on NSO, then it's, you know, I don't think there would be a dedicated, like, Xbox player for NSO, but maybe we would see some sort of way to bring it over. And, you know, we're in a new era for Xbox Game Studios, for Rare, and for Nintendo.
Yeah, we're all sexually open.
It is. It's just like this freewheeling, eyes wide shut orgy. It
exactly.
Really is. And everybody's free to just stick it wherever they'd like. So now would be a good time probably to talk about Donkey Kong Country Returns HD.
Okay, we can talk about that. I'll allow that this one time.
I know I said it could fall in ravines and we wouldn't get it, but I think it's pretty likely at this point that it will be out in 16 days. And I don't know.
I think so.
I don't know, Dustin. I see the both organic and I feel like almost manufactured outrage at this even existing. And I see some indifference. And while I do understand the criticism over the pricing, perhaps, otherwise, I think this game is a bigger victory than we could have usually hoped for. And I don't know why people have a bug in their bonnet about this. Be it a cockroach or an ability to buy worm crates. I don't know why people are really outraged about this, because for me, and maybe this is because I'm so plugged into the Donkey Kong news sphere, we predicted this game was going to happen without any insider information about it. We just predicted that a game like this would be announced last June, and we were right, because
it makes sense with the theme park.
With the theme park that's primarily based on Donkey Kong Country Returns, they kind of needed to get Donkey Kong Country Returns on a modern Nintendo platform so people could, go to the theme park and then go home and buy this. It just makes all the sense in the world to me. And the fact that it has the 3D levels, the levels designed by Monster Games for the 3DS port of it, the fact that it has those and the features therein is more than I hoped for back when we predicted this.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild that it is the definitive version of Returns. And I'm all for it.
So I'm going to get it, but I can definitely see where some of the complaints are coming from.
Okay.
It is the typical Nintendo way of charging $60 for it, which is not ideal. I've gotten used to it. I bought Tropical Freeze at a full $60, but that doesn't necessarily make it good that Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is a $60 game when an HD remaster like this might be, I don't know, $30 anywhere else maybe. Mm-hmm. But also, and this one, your mileage may vary, but I have seen the complaints about the visuals still. And, I think it still looks pretty good, but I don't necessarily think they're wrong for feeling the way they do either. Like, I've seen videos just pointing out stuff that they legit think doesn't look good, and that's fair. That's totally fair. So I think that on top of being the full $60, I can see why some people are put off by it. I mean, to be totally honest with you, Hyle, I was just talking to Adam about it the other day, or maybe it was Cameron. I don't know. Who cares? I forget. But I think it was Adam. I was saying, I'm going to get it, but I'm not that excited for it right now. But I think what it comes down to is the Idaho crew just played through this game for one of our streams last year. That's all it comes down to for me, I think, is I just played through this, and I don't know if I love Returns enough to jump into it again so soon.
That's fair.
It's good. I like it. I like Donkey Kong Country Returns. But I do think it's maybe my least favorite Donkey Kong Country game. That's saying a lot, though. Like, I still really, really like it. But yeah, I feel like I just need a little more time before I want to replay it again. And that's totally on us. We decided to play it.
You didn't know. You didn't know that there was going to be a superior version.
There's no way we could have known.
Yeah, I understand some of the complaints about the visuals. I do think that there might be reasons behind that, like incorporating the 3DS levels, perhaps.
I've seen some people say they think it was remastered from the 3DS version, which would make a lot of the visual issues make sense.
Yeah.
And like I said, it still looks good at the end of the day. It still looks like a very nice game. But yeah, I get why some people are a little pushed out of shape.
It looks like a 2010 game that is for the Wii, that it just like is cleaned up, brightened up, doesn't have that muddy, ugly Wii look to it, but like visually, it doesn't have that
another
panache.
issue. Yeah. I think another issue about it is this is the Donkey Kong game we're getting after 10 years. And, no one's fault, development stuff between whatever. If they are making that new Donkey Kong game, it's not out yet. And then this was given to us for now. And I'd much rather have this than nothing, for sure.
Yeah.
But that is another reason I think people are a little upset, is no new Donkey Kong game for 10 years. And then we get this port of a 14-year-old game that's already been ported before and isn't everyone's cup of tea graphically. So it kind of does have some things going against it, which is too bad.
So for me, I really like Donkey Kong Country Returns, but it's always been this issue where I can play the original Wii game with the motion controls, or I can play the 3DS game with the lessened visuals and frame rates, but it plays superiorly. So now I feel like I have the best of both worlds. I finally have a definitive version of the game. And
for sure.
Maybe this should have been out on the Switch ages ago. It does feel like a come down a little bit, especially after Tropical Freeze on the Switch. And I understand why Tropical Freeze was the game they brought over to the Switch first in 2018.
For sure.
It was a game that failed to find an audience because of the Wii U, and so it definitely deserved to have its moment in the sun, which Returns got, Tropical Freeze never really got. So I do get it, but it does feel like, we got Tropical Freeze for the Switch 5 years ago, and now we're getting this one, and it feels like a bit of a come down because it's not as good as Tropical Freeze, but yeah, I'm just glad we're getting it at all. And it does make sense to me to have it out for the theme park. I know Donkey Kong fans the world over were exhausted from all of the stopgaps along the way, right? This is going to keep enthusiasm for Donkey Kong alive. Now this one's going to keep enthusiasm for Donkey Kong alive until we get a new game. We've documented here at DK Vine extensively why it has been so long, from Retro Studios moving on to Vicarious Visions not getting their game done to then Donkey Kong entering a state of limbo. Last we heard, which is ages ago at this point, Nintendo planned to take the franchise internal at EPD, but who knows, because we haven't heard anything since then. Has that actually happened? Have they actually made any headway with that? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. But what Donkey Kong Country Returns HD does open up is that that added like lift that the theme park provides the franchise, because the theme park, and I can tell you right now, Dustin, the theme park is doing its job, because I have looked at some of the metrics for DK Vine and some of the stuff we've done in the past and how it has spiked since the second week in December. People are looking for Donkey Kong stuff since Donkey Kong Country opened at Universal Studios Japan. And I think that, as I've said before, that will provide a constant source of Donkey Kong fandom renewal. More so than even just a new game would. Having this theme park there, like coaster heads, theme park fans, it's an entirely different breed of fandom. And they are just as diehard, just as loyal, just as fanatic as video game fans are. So
right.
I'm not really concerned about the franchise's future anymore. The theme park.
Oh no, Donkey Kong's not a series that is just going to go on ice forever. It's not going to be like F-Zero or anything.
No, it's not. And I feel bad always using F-Zero as that example. It's like,
they did get that F-Zero, is it F-Zero 99?
F-Zero.
I don't remember what it was called. You know, like the online one? Yeah, people like that a lot. But
let's be honest,
cool.
That would be like saying Donkey Kong Country Barrel Maze was just a brilliant new Donkey Kong game.
Well, I don't know. I feel like that's selling it a little short.
Okay, but F-Zero 99 is just built on like the visuals of the original SNES F-Zero, right?
It's not like a brand new full F-Zero game.
Yeah. So, like, I'm just saying, at least we're not F-Zero. And I'm sorry, F-Zero fans. I'm sorry that I always have to use you as the, phew, well, we're not them. We're not those assholes over there. But, phew, at least we're not those assholes over there. Am I right?
You said it.
So, obviously, the Donkey Kong Country theme park opened in Japan, but we are still knee-deep. Or even neck deep. Even our like shaved Captain Black Eye-esque necks can be deep in the theme park hype, because it is opening this May in Orlando at Epic Universe. When Epic Universe launches, it will launch with a version of Super Nintendo World that already has Donkey Kong Country as one of its halves. And I think that this will, given just the populace of the Americas and the tourism of Orlando, I think this will be an even bigger deal than the park opening in Osaka, just by sheer volume of guests. And I think that, yeah, we will see another Donkey Kong explosion come spring. Come, like, people falling in love with the franchise in Orlando and then coming back home and looking for Donkey Kong news, Donkey Kong info, Donkey Kong lore. And, I think that we haven't even begun to see the effects of the theme park effect, if you will.
Yeah. Hyle, I'm going to stop you for a moment. People are going nuts in the chat, talking about F-Zero 99. I want to say, apologies. I haven't played it.
Oh, did we upset somebody by saying that F-Zero 99 uses the basic...
I think we upset everybody.
Uses the basic visuals of the, 1991 Super Nintendo game? That's no indictment against its quality. That's not me saying, oh, it's a bad game because it looks so old. I'm just saying, resource-wise, it's not really a new F-Zero game.
I don't want to say anything on it because I haven't played it, but I've also not played many of the other F-Zeros. I'm not in a position to be talking about it.
Here's the thing, Dustin. I apologize to the F-Zero 99 heads listening to this. And I will say that F-Zero absolutely deserves a new game. Me saying, phew, at least we're not those assholes over there, was in no means me saying, I hope F-Zero is just buried in a pit forever. I think it's a shame that Nintendo has allowed certain franchises of theirs to stagnate because Mario Kart is the most profitable racer, so who gives a fuck about F-Zero? I think they serve different markets, and I think that Nintendo, just like Rare, needs to be better about utilizing the full, wide, diverse breadth of their various series and franchises. So
let me put it in a different way. Because F-Zero did just get that game, and people like it, so it does feel a little weird to put it in that spot. Let's say we're better off than the Chibi Robo fans.
Yeah, those assholes over there. Whew, at least we're not them. Yeah. All right, I think we saved ourselves
but
there.
Anyway.
I think everybody's back on our side now.
People love us.
Look, I didn't mean to say what I said about F-Zero. It was just my fat fingers retweeting Andrew Tate. He's the one who said it. All right, I didn't mean to, I was just looking at some of the tweets he did, and I was like, oh God, that guy, fuck that guy. I can't believe he's saying that about F-Zero. It was taken out of
context.
It was just linked to me. It's like, look what this jerk is saying about F-Zero.
He's calling it the barrel maze of the franchise.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh wow, yeah, I would never say that. And then my thumb accidentally
To be fair, Hyle.
Yeah.
To be fair, you said that knowing what a big fan of barrel maze you are.
Exactly. Look, Josh and I did a whole spotlight episode and then a follow-up mini about barrel maze last year.
I do think it's an unfair comparison, but we know you love barrel maze.
Look,
it comes from a place of love.
Yes, and F-Zero fans, if I was an F-Zero diehard, you better believe I would be singing the praises of F-Zero 99, the best F-Zero game of the last 20 years.
Right.
Okay, well, we have about a little under 8 minutes until Twycross New Year. So, still want to get to a couple things. Of course, the Switch 2 is the primary source of speculation and frenzied debate amongst Nintendo diehards. Here's the thing, Dustin. I don't really care, honestly. Like, because the Switch 2 is just going to be something new I have to buy. And I still don't have a Steam Deck. All right?
Right.
So, yeah, like, in principle, I'm looking forward to the Switch 2, seeing what it's all about, but I'm not, like, waking up every day saying, this is going to be the day. This is going to be the moment we are going to find out about the Switch 2. You know, they could just, they could delay it another year or two for all I care.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like Everwild. Like, we just don't know anything about it yet, other than, like, the small details we do. As of right now, I hear Switch 2, and all I know is it's gonna be the Switch but better, which is good.
Is good.
Yeah. I'm sure when the Switch 2 is out, I will want it, but for right now, I'm not that, excited.
Exactly. So, here's the thing. I don't think the new Donkey Kong game will be announced for launch. And I'm sorry to say that. I would love to be wrong here. Maybe I am. But I think it's the part of my brain that's unwilling to accept that we would get Donkey Kong Country Returns HD in January. And then the Donkey Kong game for Switch 2, like, within the same year. If the Switch 2 does, in fact, launch this year.
And it's not impossible we could, but we haven't gotten a DK game in 10 years. The fact that we're getting this is even a lot. Like, it feels like it kind of reminds me of when K. Rool got into Smash Brothers, and some of us were like, okay, we got K. Rool, we don't need anything else. We don't need Dixie Kong and Smash. And it's like, no, we do. Like, we can get, like, look, Mario gets like 5,000 games a year.
Yeah, that's true. I do think Donkey Kong is a much higher priority at Nintendo than a lot of Nintendo diehards are even now willing to admit or recognize. I think that we are seeing it more from Nintendo, but it's just, I think that like Nintendo fandom cultural inertia that's just keeping me back from saying, yeah, we could see the new Donkey Kong game at launch for the Switch 2.
Yeah, like it's not an impossible thing. It could totally happen, but where we're at right now, it seems so weird to think that it could happen.
Right.
Like that would be a strange occurrence.
It would be a strange occurrence, although not completely unlikely. What I do, yeah. I'll make one prediction for the Switch 2, okay?
Okay.
And I could be wrong here. I could be wrong, but I think this is even... I think this is a safer prediction than I've made for anything else on this episode. I think Mario Kart would be a likely system launch title.
Okay. I don't know how likely that is. I guess it would make sense. Mario Kart's always huge.
Mario Kart's always huge, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was this monster perpetual success for Nintendo. And now that they have wrapped up doing anything new for Mario Kart Tour / the Booster Course Pass, because they were very intertwined, those two, I think they are working on the new Mario Kart. I think having it out for the Switch 2's launch would make a lot of sense. And I think that having the first all-new Mario Kart console experience in 11 years. Yeah, 11 years would be this monumental thing for the Nintendo culture. And I do think they have learned or will take away some lessons from the Booster Course Pass and even the Smash Ballot, because I think making Mario Kart 9 or Mario Kart 10 or whatever it's called, making it a continual rolling event of new content.
New courses, new characters.
Like, it's just going to be baked into the game's DNA from the start. It's like, it's not going to be, here's this complete Mario Kart package. It's going to be like, here's the beginning of your new Mario Kart journey. And I think, like Mario Kart Tour, we will see a greater emphasis or degree of cosmetics, costumes. Luigi with a big sausage could be...
I sure hope so.
Like, I think maybe there'll be, like, costumes and skins rather than completely new characters, maybe. But I do think that element from Mario Kart Tour that has been very lucrative for Nintendo will be brought into the new Mario Kart game. I'm not saying this is going to be, like, microtransactions or DLC, or there's going to be, like, the, like, Mario Kart shop where you just constantly buy stuff like that. I mean, it's possible they've done it for Smash Brothers, right? But I think we are going to see like continual updates to this, and it's not going to be this thing where we get the new game and then in a couple of years we might get a new Booster Course Pass. I think that's going to be in the game's DNA and language from the very start.
I think so too. I mean, that's something that Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel did that was really cool, is after the game came out for like 6 months or so, they added new courses every month, new characters, new costumes for all the characters. And this wasn't too long after Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And I can only speak for myself, but it just made Mario Kart 8 Deluxe feel so basic. Like, I love Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but the way they had so many costumes for these characters in Crash, and how they would give you new courses, new characters every month. Oh, it was a blasty blast. I had a great time with that.
Blasty blast. We're under a minute now, Dustin, until the new year in Twycross in Pantsland at Ghoulhaven Hall. Are you excited?
Oh my good gracious.
Are you excited?
Yeah.
Are you excited?
I'm urinating a little.
Good. You're urinating. My nipples are pert.
So that means we're prepared.
We are ready to go.
We're voiding our juices.
25 seconds from now. You know what? We're also going to get a new Super Mario Brothers movie trailer this year, right? Because it's coming out next year. It's coming out in 2026. So we got to get the trailer, right? We're going to get a little trailer. We're going to get a little trailer.
Yeah.
Right?
I forget how early Illumination releases
5,
trailers.
4,
Four,
3,
three.
2, 1. Happy New
Oh,
Year! Woo! My alarm's
there
going
it
off.
is.
That means New Year.
Yeah.
Woo!
There's the cum shot.
Oh my God, Dustin, you gotta keep it civil. You gotta keep, this is a family show and you're talking about ejaculates?
You're right. You know what? My New Year's resolution, less spermy talk.
Less spermy talk. Let's sing the New Year's song, alright?
Okay.
Alright. Should old game characters be forgot and never brought to mind?
Woo-hoo!
Should old game characters be forgot? You should read dkvine.com.
Yay.
That was to the tune of Auld Lang Syne.
That was pretty good. I would buy it on an album once and then not again.
So, yeah, like a single. That's what they call them.
Yeah, that's what they call them, a single.
Yeah. We really need to do that.
Because that's how many
DK Vine.
times I'm going to buy it.
We really need to do that DK Vine album with I Wish I Was the Walrus Every Day.
I don't know the rules to golf.
I don't know the rules to golf. All of the
The
classics.
Stanley the Bugman rap, that's my favorite one.
This bug man doesn't play an instrument. What a shame. My favorite.
I love Collins. It's Collins' turn to blossom flies with his dungarees and his wonky eyes.
Legitimately, I think that might be my favorite. It's not appreciated as much because it's weird and esoteric and people don't get the joke. But if you can get on its wavelength, with the wavelength is imagine Donkey Kong 64 but with Stanley the Bugman characters, then
Right, if the wrong character got to go forward.
yeah, it's an all-timer. So anyway, we're wrapping up now because it is 2025 and I've got to put this episode of The Kongversation and this season of The Kongversation to Betty bye. But
Oh my goodness.
oh my goodness gracious. But I do want to say, like, we're probably going to get a new trailer for the second Super Mario Brothers movie. Don't even know what that's going to entail. I'm sure Donkey Kong will be in it to some degree, even if it's a limited, like, I'm still here. Okay, bye. And then, you know.
See ya.
But, yeah, you know what? Whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, good enough. I'll take a little. Well, yeah, because I feel like the first movie, as much as I love all the DK stuff in it, it did kind of take over a good chunk that could have been used for arguably more important stuff. Like, I wouldn't change it because I love Donkey Kong. But
it's the great irony. It's the great irony of that movie. The screenplay was trash because it focused so much on Donkey Kong.
Yeah, the worst part is also the best part.
Yeah, like the only reason I'm invested at all in this movie that's not very good, but it was good to me, was the thing that made it not so good and made the screenplay a fucking mess. I love that. I love that dichotomy.
I wouldn't change it for the world.
Right.
I guess.
It definitely was one of the first salvos of this new Donkey Kong popularity we are currently experiencing. And of course, it was always going to come to pass with the theme park, but it was kind of this early taste of everything. And it got some little kiddos primed for all of this. So.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I like about you, Hyle, is you look at that and you say some things about it.
Thank you, everybody who tuned in on this episode. We've got Tomo621 has joined us. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to Me Muppet, Malik, Andre, Cameron, No Song for Spiders, Luffy Dawn, Freezer, Porygon Q, Zip Binders, Chris, Happy New Year, Chris. Cameron again. Let's just say Cameron twice.
Yeah.
So The Kongversation will be back early in the year for lucky season 13. And I can't take as much time off between the seasons now because, well, we have a Donkey Kong game coming out in 16 days. I don't think we'll be back quite in time for that, but I will try my best. I need to take a few weeks off to recharge my batteries. Let's be honest. I'm running on fumes of fumes.
You only have so much juice inside of you.
Yeah, I've depleted my juices.
They all came out when it was New Year time.
So I've got to recharge my bodily fluids. And that doesn't mean, though, I'm taking time off from DK Vine, because keep checking DKVine.com for news and updates. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for brand new DKU videos in the interim, and our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/DKVine, for weekly DK Vine Done Slow, resuming January 8th, Stream of Thieves every Sunday, and Idaho Crew streams every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Dustin, thank you for being on this episode with me.
Oh, my pleasure, Hyle. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we will see you in season 13 of The Kongversation. Yes, I know. I promised way back when that in the 4th episode of season 13, Cameron and I would be discussing the Nintendo Power Supplies catalog one more time.
Ooh.
And I haven't forgotten. It's been in my show notes for like 6 years now. We will be doing that. Episode 1304 of The Kongversation. Look forward to that.
Oh, I am.
I'm really not, because I don't know what else we're gonna say. But that's, you know what? that's a problem for like 4 episodes down the line. Right now, I'm living easy. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
This has been a File 2 production.
Qué rico.